Good morning, everyone. So, in today's section, I will talk about human influences in ecosystem. This is the topic. This is IGCSE chapter number 20. And nowadays, Cambridge is asking questions from the last two, three topics, which is connected to human influences on ecosystem or environment or ecology, right? So these topics are very important. So I have made a series of video on the each topic. So if you want to use the content of the topic, you can please go ahead and you can also mail me and I will forward you the PPTs. So without wasting time, let's continue with the topic. So in this section, we'll talk about food production. And so see, as we are seeing human influences, so we'll talk about what all human activity is going to help the human society, right? So first we'll talk about what is the role of human in food production and in agriculture practice, right? So see, first of all, uh, the human have started using technology in the agriculture field, and agriculture field is not only confined only to the uh, cultivating, plowing the field, and growing the crops, vegetables, and all. It is now connected to so many things, right? Uh, can we use machines? Can we use technology to improve the agriculture process, to increase the overall experience of doing agriculture? So there are some modern techniques which is being used in the process that helps to increase in the food production. So in this slide, we'll talk about what all modern technologies your farmers are using. So first is agricultural machinery. So now in the old days, there are so many people required in the agriculture practice, more than 10, 20 people because field is very big. So we need a manpower. So to so the recent discoveries, the recent technologies has replaced the human, and it is also improved the in the efficiency in the crop yield production, right? And it also increases the ability to do more agriculture even in a larger uh, area, right? Because of the technology. Chemical fertilizers improves yield. So nowadays, farmers also use fertilizer which is highly specific in terms of the nutrients which is required by the soil, right? So meaning is if it is there in the soil, then plant will grow large and produce more fruit or more yield. Apart from fertilizer, we are also using insecticides and herbicides. Of course, there is not slight, there is a side effect of using these chemicals in the environment. But of course, when human are putting this much of effort in growing the cultures, growing the crops, then we can't just leave it for insects to eat, right? So of course, we will apply these chemicals, and these chemicals will kill all the unwanted insects, the weeds, right? That means there will be a less damage, right? So less damage to the crop. Selective breeding, of course. So nowadays human activity is more selective in nature. We select the high yielding variety. We select the good character in the plant. And all these selective breeding makes the yield more higher as well as more in quantity, right? Now, there are there are many countries which follows monoculture technique. So monoculture is a very uh, unique way of doing agriculture in which we just grow one type of crop for many years. Many years we are just simply growing one type of crop. And so So first of all, in this monoculture, the farming is growing grows in a very large area of agricultural land, and they only grow one type of crop at a time, right? So this large scale growth of the single variety of the plant, what you are growing, like palm tree, right? And the Indonesian rainforest. If you're growing only one type of variety of the plant, this is not a natural phenomenon, right? So where there are usually many different species of plant growing, which in turn supports many other species. So there will be a higher biodiversity in that area. But in the monoculture, we are growing one type of crop. So the chances of getting biodiversity, the highest, or diversified biodiversity will be not there, right? So in one way, you can say that monoculture minimizes biodiversity because you're growing only one type of crop. So of course, the the diversity of the organism will be less, right? So another issue with the monoculture is that increase in the pest population. Of course, if only so, food chain will be promoted. It's like a one type of crop is growing, and there are specific insects or birds or they feed on these plants, so their number will of course increase. So if particular pest feeds a crop, farming it in the large area repeatedly means that there's a good supply of food for the pests, causing the population of these pests to increase. So we don't want to increase their population, we have to decrease it, right? So often farmers will spray insecticide, right, onto the crop in order to control the pest, but there is some there is some demerits. Okay, so like sometime when we apply insecticide to the crops, sometimes harmless insects also get killed, right? So pollution by pesticides is again a separate problem, right? So in many circumstances there will be a repetitive use of specific pests, right? Because we have to kill them. We don't want them to be more resistant. So we have to give high dose of pesticides, right? So that we can eradicate, we can remove them from the crop. So, so human pressure on the other species, of course, we are doing some kind of habitat destruction because we are doing deforestation. We are cutting down the trees. We are using the land for agriculture practice, right? But for some other purposes also. But knowingly, unknowingly, we are going to deteriorate the biodiversity and the other species living in, right? So when it comes to defining what is biodiversity, you can say the number of or the type of different organisms, different species that live in a particular area, right? So generally, human activities tended to force biodiversity downward, whereas the high biodiversity is needed for a stable ecosystem. So habitat destruction by human is a major downward pressure on biodiversity. So we are the cause of it. So what is the reason for the habitat destruction? First of all, the increasing human population. Of course, we are growing very fast. Our growth rate is highly exponential, and as the population grow, we need habitat, right, to live. So of course, we will cut the trees and forest. Many habitat are destroyed by human to make the space for economic activity, like or by pollution from these activities, and this reduces the biodiversity of the area. So we need land, right, for so many purposes to set up industry, to set up a forest, specific type of forest, right? And the third is sometimes knowingly, unknowingly, we are interrupting the food chain and the food web. That means more species may die because the prey is gone, right? So there is no one to eat. So what will happen? Of course, you are going to die because you are not getting a food. So this is some of the explanation why what are the main reason behind doing the habitat destruction. So let's go one by one. So reason first is cleaning land for farming and housing. So of course, crops, livestock, and homes all take up a large amount of space. So we have to, as we are population are growing, so the demand for the food and the amount of land may required because we have the population is increasing, the family members are increasing, right? So that will clean the habitat. They will cut down the trees. That's deforestation. Extraction of natural resource. Sometimes, like we have to extract wood, we have to extract stone, or metals, or coal, or natural gas, or petroleum, right? So there are many trees are cut down. We again destroy the forest, and in addition to get uh, some kind of resource which helps in extraction, right? Like when we do mining, when we do coal mining, right? Mining is very broader sense, but when we say coal mining specific to coal, mining, crude oil mining, that means we are extracting crude oil from the sun, from the sea, right? Marine pollution. So human activity lead to the pollution of marine habitat in many places. Oil spills. So sometimes oils is spilled over the seas, and other waste pollutes also pollutes the aquatic water, I mean the medium, and starts disturbing the sea life. In addition, eutrophication can also cause. So what is eutrophication? We'll discuss in detail in the next slide. Meanwhile, we'll just in one line, I can say that eutrophication is a excessive growth of algae on the water bodies, right? So this causes a huge decrease in the biodiversity. And slowly we will find that the organisms who are staying inside the water, they lacks oxygen. There's a demand of oxygen increases, but there is no, I mean, organisms are dying. That oxygen is being used up in deteriorating them, destroying them, right? Deforestation. So deforestation is cleaning a tree or cutting down a large tree on a larger scale. If trees are replaced by replanting, then it's fine. It's called sustainable practice because you are removing and then you are planting. But generally, the trees are being cleared for the land is used in a different way, like making buildings, used for grazing cattle's idea of monoculture, right? So therefore, we can say that it's not sustainable, right? So there are so many disadvantages. Like if you're cutting down the tree on a large scale, there's a chance of extinction of some of the species or migration of the species. They will move from one place to another. Loss of soil, fertility, flooding. Of course, if there is nothing, then flood may occur. And of course, increase in CO2 in the atmosphere because there is no plant to minimize CO2. So let's talk about the consequences. What will happen if there is loss of biodiversity or the soil erosion, flooding, and increase in CO2 concentration? So first of all, if biodiversity is lost, right? So first of all, forest habitat, especially the tropical rainforest, have a very huge range of biodiversity. And as the habitat is destroyed, it caused loss of large number of plants and animals. So now the question is, what about the biodiversity, right? So there is no trees, so if there is no trees, plant is not going to grow, right? Plant and animals are not able to feed, right? So food chain will get disturbed. And in many cases, extinction of organism may take place, right? So we are growing crops, we are growing plants, we are disturbing the habitat just for our sake. It's all humans are so selfish. They don't think about the impact which may cause in the environment, right? Next, soil erosion. Soil erosion is a process in which the top fertile layer of the soil get eroded, get you can say flushed away from the mainland. It goes somewhere else, right? So generally, plant roots have a root hair which holds the soil, prevent from being eroded when the rain is going on. So tree will usually take up the nutrients and minerals from the soil, right? So without trees, nutrients and minerals will remain unused, you can say. So there is a maximum chance that when rain is going on, these nutrients will get washed away into the river or lakes, called leaching, right? So this loss of soil nutrients is permanent. Now you can't get the nutrient back. So again, you have to add fertilizer and manure, right? And makes it very difficult for the forest to regrow again, right? And even if the land is not cultivated with the crop plant or grass for cattle. Flooding, of course, when there is if no one is holding the soil, the top layer will get flushed away and it will cause a flooding. Not only flooding, it may cause landsliding also. Increase CO2 concentration. So tree carry out photosynthesis, right? And we are cutting the trees. Who will fix the CO2? No one, right? So the removal of significant number of tree means less CO2 is being taken from the environment, and of course less CO2 means less oxygen will also release. So when area of the land and forest are cleared for land use, the trees are often burnt or opposed to being cut down. So this releases CO2, right? Further increase carbon dioxide level in the atmosphere and contribution to the global warming. So these are the global warming gases like methane and carbon dioxide. What are the side effects of the pollution? So there are, of course, human activity may leads to land pollution or air pollution or water pollution. So let's come back on this, how we can, what is the cause of that and what is the effect we are going to get. So unwanted sewage, like we don't have a proper management of the sewage treatment, right? So sometime what happens, the lack of sewage treatment plant, inhibited area due to poor infrastructure, lack of money, meaning is sewage runs and pump into the river generally. What effect you will get? That it will provide a good source for food for bacteria and they will start growing rapidly and sudden the depletion, the oxygen dissolve in the water. So, and it will cause death of many aquatic organisms, right? And that is called eutrophication. Then another pollutant is the chemical waste. So chemical wastes are actually heavy metals. So generally all heavy metals like cobalt, mercury, right? So these are not good for anyone, right? Even in the aquatic medium, if these chemicals are released, they will deteriorate the water, right? So many heavy metals and other chemicals are persistent. They remain. They do not break down. They do not decompose, and they remain in that food chain for the maximum number of time. And this phenomena is called bioaccumulation, where poison is going to the top carnivores, right? Next, discarded rubbish. Much rubbish contains plastic, right? Generally, plastics are there or paper, right? So much rubbish such as the made from plastics, so it's a non-biodegradable substance, and there's a chance that they are not going to get destroyed by the animal or by insects, right? So the chance of being on the land is quite high, right? So animal also eat the plastic and it may breaks into smaller pieces, right? And it can get into the food chain in this way. So slowly it will get introduced into the food chain, which is not good. What else? Fertilizer also act as a pollutants. How they are causing problem? Because when the rain is going on, the top layer, if suppose the forest is cleared, so due to rain, the top layer of the soil sometimes get washed away along with the water. Now, how the crop will grow because there is no nutrients. Where this soil nutrients will go into this aquatic medium, and rapidly you will find that bacteria starts growing and decomposing, right? So depleting the oxygen dissolve in the wastewater and causing death of aquatic organism, such as eutrophication is one of the best example. Insecticides and herbicides, of course, they are also causing a damage because we are spraying these on crop so that insects and pests and weeds are not going to act on it. So bioaccumulation, loss of biodiversity, damage to the beneficial insects can build up into soil. That's very natural thing. And the toxic concentration and harms other organism too. So we have not completely removed it. Nuclear fallout. This is a process in which radioactive particles that get into the environment from accidental leakage, right? So we have not released it, but due to the accident, it is being released, right? So some radioactive particles have half-life and can remain in the environment for many years because their half-life is generally higher. So they may cause increased risk of cancers. Small particle can be carried by wind hundred of miles from the original site, and then so like this they will keep on traveling, right? Methane, of course, produced by rice field, paddy fields, and the cattle farming. And methane is a highly poisonous gas. It causes greenhouse effect, increasing the Earth's temperature. Carbon dioxide. So when fossil fuels are burnt, then carbon dioxides are released, and they are a greenhouse gas. That means they are contributing to the enhanced greenhouse effect. That is due to the climate change. So we have to look on it. Types of pollution. So generally, in broader sense, we classify the pollution as a land, water, and air, right? This we have done. Plastic pollution. Now, how plastic is creating a problem here? So first of all, plastic is a highly undegradable substance in the world. You can't degrade it, and the impact will be seen in both land as well as in water. So in land, how they're going to affect? So plastic is generally disposed by or you can say you do in the landfillings, you fill it the land, right, wherever required. Sometime it broken down, it release some kind of toxins into the surrounding, and as such as the land is not good for growing crop or grazing and can only be used for building a several decades after burial. So generally the land are kept free for few years so that the nutrients get accumulated. How marine system get affected? So animals often try to eat plastic or become caught in it. Sometimes they get injured. Sometimes it causes suffocation and they get died. So as the plastic breakdown, it releases toxins that affects marine organism, which is very important, right? So decomposition must be prevented. So once it is broken down into very nice plastic or particles, it is commonly ingested by the animals and enters the food chain. So we have to prevent this also. It should not enter the food chain, right? So in air pollution, let's talk about the acid rain. So cause is sulfur dioxide and oxide, nitrogen dioxide, carbon dioxide, all these are the cause. Source, when we burn fossil fuel, they release all these gases. Effect, it damages the leaf. Acidification of the lakes, right? So sometimes birds or animals start, they get killed. They get killed there. So increased risk of asthma. Of course, if person have some any problem related to bronchitis, then there's a chance of asthma attack. Corrosion of the stonework buildings, right? Where the that person has done some kind of art, some kind of, you can say, um, work, stone work they have done. So that is also going to get affected by these gases, right? And the last is release of aluminium from the soil into the lake that are also very toxic to fish. What is the possible solution? What to do now with all these problems? So changing the power station from coal and oil to the renewable source. This is one way. Use scrubber in power station chimney sulfur dioxide so that we can collect the sulfur dioxide, or using catalytic converter in cars, right? So they convert oxides of nitrogen into harmless nitrogen so that you are not going to disturb the ecosystem. So in a very broader sense, we are continuously talking about the eutrophication. So let's try to understand using this 4-5 step, right? So first, excessive nutrients from the fertilizer is runoff. Runoff means they are being moved from one place to another place, from the land into the water, right? So number two, aquatic plants are, of course, they are growing because they are getting nutrition. Algae will also start growing very fast because you have given the nutrition. So their population will also increase. Algal bloom prevents sunlight from reaching. So when sunlight is coming, at that time, due to presence of these gases, these uh, air polluted substances, they don't allow the sunlight to fall on the earth, right? So they block it, you can say. So decomposition rate will increase, of course, and aerobic respiration will decrease, right? And slowly the aerobic respiration of the decomposers reduces and the dissolved oxygen is further used up, right? And at the end, organism will die, those who are not feeling well, or they are not responding much, right? We have two gases, methane and carbon dioxide, which act as a global warming gas molecule. So how they are released? So when we burn fossil fuel, they are released. When we keep the livestock, like you have kept rice in your big rice paddy container, right, where you can put it for more than 10-20 days. So sometime burning fossil fuel, keeping livestock generate methane gas. If you're having a goat or cows, buffaloes, they keep on releasing CH4. Global warming melts the permafrost of subpolar region, and which results as even more trapped methane is being released into the atmosphere. So these are some of the effect of gases on environment. So here you can see this is showing when greenhouse effect is not there or greenhouse gas is not there. But here you can see there is a barrier, right? So it won't allow all the signals to be responded, right? Sustainability. So see, when we say sustainability, that means we are not using many resources from the earth, like such as food, water, and wood, right? So a sustainable resource is one which is produced as rapid as it is removed from the country, from the surroundings, so that it does not run out of, right? So as formation starts, degradation also starts. Some resource such as fossil fuels and some are non-renewable resource, which is cannot be replaced. You can't change it always, right? So these resources once used cannot be produced anymore, and so they need to be conserved by reducing the amount, right? How much we are using it. So fossil fuels are being used as the energy source in increasing countries and even many more. In addition, there are raw materials for many other products we make. Example, plastics, and which is made up of oils as well as the raw material, right? Some products, right, especially those who made from the paper, plastic, glass, or metal, can be reused. So you don't have to throw it. You can just reuse it. So the resource such as forest and fish livestock can also be maintained sustainably. Right. So sustainable development is defined as a development providing the need of the increasing human demand without harming the environment, which is not possible. When developing the way in which we use resource to manage it sustainably, we have to balance conflicting demands. So let's see what all demands are there. First, the need for local people are to be able to utilize the resource they have in the immediate environment with the need of the large compound to make the money. Second, the need of balancing the need of humans for resource with the need of animal and the plant or anything whatever you want that your colleague can help you in this, then it will be more beneficial. The need to balance what current population need to what future population might need it. For example, if we invest or harvest all the fish, we need to feed people now. So this might lead to overfishing, which cause depletion in the stock for future generations. So we have to take care of that also. For development to occur sustainably, people need to share the suggestions and they can do a cooperate work at a local pop site. Sustainable forests are needed to produce paper products and provide wood for timber. So forest is very important. So much of the world paper is now produced from the forest. Tropical hardwoods such as teak and mahogany takes many years to grow. It's not like sudden it will start. So usually these type of wood have been made more sustainable due to the introduction of the several schemes designed to monitor the plant growth. So education helps in this section in a very broader way. And what people do, education helps to ensure logging companies and also aware of sustainable practice and consumer are aware of importance how we can use this. Managing fish livestock sustainably. So managing fish like stock sustainably include controlling the number of fish which is going to caught every year. We can't use it all. Controlling the size of the fish caught in the sustainable place. Controlling the time of year that certain fish can be caught. There is a very certain rate. Restocking, breeding and keeping the offspring until they are large enough to survive in the natural habitat. And of course, generating awareness. Endangered species. So species means which are at the verge of extinction. Why they are? Maybe people are doing hunting. Maybe there's a climate change. Maybe there is a pollution. Maybe there's a loss of habitat, right? Or there's increasing non-invasive organism. So all this process will cause species to get endangered. So endangered species can be helpful by conservation measures such as, let's talk about this, education program, captive breeding program, monitoring and legal protection of the habitat or species, or seed bank. Of course, we can put all the seeds in the seed bank. Endangered species are the species which are not growing as per the surrounding, right? Because they are becoming extinct if there is not enough genetic variation in the population, as the random change in the environment may quickly cause extinction because the remaining organisms are very similar, right? So we can't understand who have done what. There are moral, cultural, and scientific reasons for conservation program. Let's see one by one. So first is reducing extinction rate of both plant and animal, keeping damage to the food chain and the food web to minimize the food loss, and protection of future food supply and maintaining nutrient cycle, right? So that is also very important. Reason for conserve, why we are doing all this? So there are so many reasons. First is maintaining increase in biodiversity. Then reducing extinction. Animals should not get extinct. Protect all the vulnerable ecosystem which would have been quickly lost by human activity, right? And the last is maintaining natural ecosystem. There are so many conservation techniques, like nowadays we use artificial insemination, right? Or second is in vitro fertilization. So in artificial insemination, the captive breeding programs are going on so that a new variety of crop or animal can be produced. And in case of in vitro fertilization, the captive breeding program is also comes in this, right? Risk to the species, what all risks are there? So if population size decreases, species will experience reduced genetic variation. This renders the species more susceptible to environmental change, so they are not able to survive that much now. So the species is less resilient and greater chance of extinction. And that's it about the topic. We'll catch you in the next lesson with the next topic. Thank you.